What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome back to the Punk Rock Review podcast, man. It's been a wild week for me. I feel like Rob has had a much more tame last 7 days. I'm a little envious, to be honest. But, man, it's been exciting. Got a lot of exciting stuff happening with the channel and the podcast. I think we just hit, like, 400 downloads on like, audio platforms, which is huge. We went from, like, 20 to 100 to 400 real quick. So, a lot of positivity there. And then we're on episode, I found out, I went and there's like counted. This is episode 95, I think. So we got like 5 more until we hit 100, bro. That's crazy. Now, granted, some of those are with other guests, but like you've been here the whole time. That's wild, bro. 100 episodes is a lot.
Yeah, there's not even that many weeks in the year, so that's crazy. So we've
right
above, yeah.
Yeah, dude. No, we're smoking the game, bro. So how's your week been, Rob?
Like you said, calm.
Nice.
And just trying to get to the summer is kind of the big MO around here. So
that's creeping up on you soon too.
Yeah, thank God.
Dude, so random thought. So I was trying to kind of come up with some merch ideas for the channel because we're starting to get to where people are asking me for it.
Yeah.
And last week I thought of this and then it popped up. So I think I have to do it because it kind of like the universe aligned it for me. But I was gonna make a shirt with my face on it with the 8-bit glasses over them.
Yeah.
With right question mark on it. You know how I'm always like, you know how I'm always like, right?
Yeah.
Right? I say that about everything. And then somebody in the comments was like randomly, they were like, hey man, you should do a Punk Rock Review shirt that just says it is what it is. Because those are like the 2 things that I say the most. It is what it is and right. And so I'm gonna put right on a shirt with my ugly mug on it, and then I'll sell them for like $10 or something stupid. Like I just want people to wear them.
We could just record you saying those 2 phrases, and you could take a week off, and I'll just give like takes and rants, and I'll just press the button. You'll be going right.
Yo, and then have like just a picture of me, like
yeah. No, but his Wi-Fi is a little messed up, so that's why he's like.
Yo, that would be hilarious. Actually, we gotta come up with some. I'm about to have to like try to find an editor to help me out so I can get shorts going. I really didn't want to do shorts, but the more I'm watching other creators, I think I may need to like maybe spend like 1 day a week devoting some time to like listening to our previous podcast and clipping out maybe 5 short videos and doing like 1 per day throughout the week and just trying to have a little bit of content in that form. Just for people that are interested and might find that and then be interested in what we're doing long form. I don't know, man. I just want to make sure that we're doing the best we can for the viewers of the channel. It's hard being just me most of the time. I don't really have anybody to help, so it's a lot of work. Like speaking about Erin Miklo earlier, when one of the voicemails that she left me was interesting because she said like, yeah, it's just me here. I'm a one-woman show. It's I hire the crew. I hire the editor, and I was like, man, it's not a one-woman show. Like, no disrespect, but like, I'm a one-man show. Like, I write the scripts, I film it, I edit it, I do my thumbnails, I come up with the concepts. That's one man. That's a one-man team. Like, I would go as far as say I'm like 1 1/3 because every week I have a show with you. But like one woman, like I don't know, man. That's a wild statement to make. But I say that to say that like it's just a lot of work, man. So eventually we'll get there. But anyways, if you're here on an audio platform, thank you so much for your time. This week's episode is going to be fun. We're talking about Teen Idol's Pucker Up from 1999, right? Yeah. And then AFI, Black Sails in the Sunset, also from 1999. 2 incredibly different albums, but just massively important records in my personal collection. And I would imagine at least the AFI one is pretty important to Rob.
Absolutely.
So I vote that we start this conversation with Teen Idols because I think it's going to be a much faster conversation.
Yeah. Kind of like the songs.
Man, very much like the songs. This album is fast. Okay. All right. So Teen Idols Pucker Up dropped in March 23rd of 1999. It is 16 songs and only 28 minutes, bro. I can't describe to you how much that is my style, bro. I love this record.
Man, it's efficient, isn't it? The way it gets in and out.
Boy, I tell you, that's a great descriptive word right there. It's efficient. Absolutely. So I did my track recap. None of it's very long. Most of it's like one sentence. So I'm gonna read this real quick. You let me know afterwards. I want to know what you have to think about some of this. The opener's the title track, and it's so good, man. It's catchy, it's fast. The vocal harmonies and the hand claps in that song really get you off to just a positive feeling. You know what I'm saying? It's obvious what you're getting with this, though. Right off the bat, there's snotty lyrics, there's snotty vocals. Actually, the vocals are kind of clean. The lyrics are more snotty than the vocals on this. I think the addition of a female bass player who can add vocals in there is a massive W for this band. How do you feel about that?
No, it is, and that's where they do some of these harmonies so well throughout. That's what's kind of crazy about this entire album is it's
Right.
very like basic punk rock that's just done very very well. Like these songs are really tight. They sound really good. They know what they're doing musically. It's just not in a style of music that's generally considered this sort of buttoned up. But I think they do a really really good job of putting this like the Beach Boys meets like just a ramones-core band basically is
Right.
what they have.
Dude, I went back and read a review from when this album came out, and I was so pissed off by the reviewer because they were like, all they focused on was the like lack of diversity in this like sonic sounds of the album, but they didn't focus at all on like the production value. They did mention the vocal harmonies a little bit, but they just like glossed over a bunch of stuff that are like really positive about this record. Now, are they reinventing the wheel and doing something crazy and bringing us just a bunch of unique sounds and stuff? This isn't Life Won't Wait, bro. This is more like Let's Go, which is still pretty diverse, honestly. But like, this is like, it's like you said, they figured out what they are good at, what they enjoy doing, and they perfected that. And I don't know, man. I don't see that as a bad thing. I think a lot of artists go out and try to do something different and then just fall on their face, and it happens a lot. I just don't understand the hate on a band that finds out what they like to do and then does that. I appreciate it personally.
Yeah, and they were always pretty good at. I will say though, this very much sounds like The Time, and so I can see a
Oh
review
yeah.
at the time being like, this stuff is so saturated that it was nothing new. But also like they have their position in history. I think maybe because of that, because like maybe they don't have the songs that really take them to the next level or that really attract a big. This big wide audience, but they're very very consistent though too. Like that's the other end of that is if a band, like you're saying, if a band tries a bunch of stuff and they're not good at it, then it doesn't really serve a purpose. Like
Right.
Teen Idols were good at the Teen Idols thing, so might as well do it. And again, it's not like they were phoning it in. I think there's a difference between doing the same thing and doing it well and just phoning it in. And you can feel when that occurs. That's not what was going on here. There's creativity in these songs.
I agree. Especially we're going to get into the lyrics here in a few minutes, dude. But like, yeah, I think that there's two kinds of like music fans out there. There's fans, and I would think I would fall into this category, who are fine with like being complacent in their preferred sounds. Like, I don't care if I get diversity. I don't care if I have a band that just does what we're talking about, goes all over the map with their sounds. Now, I can appreciate that. But I more often than not find a band whose sound is what I like, and I like the band. One Man Army has a sound. I would say that Rance is probably actually the one that doesn't. They have a sound, but they oftentimes go all over the place. But they still have a sound. You know what I'm saying?
But like they wouldn't get accused of that as much though because of what you're saying, because they have these other places to go. I think of bands like Pennywise get accused of that, of just making the same album over. And I think sometimes though, when people make that accusation, it's a little bit of lazy analysis. They're not really listening to the album. It's just that like
100%.
That stuff, like anything Pennywise ever does fits into skate punk, just like anything that these guys ever do fits into like the pop punk that they sort of do. So that is what they do. That is the type of band they are. I think it's impressive when bands like Pennywise, like Teen Idols, explore a lot of stuff within those parameters. Like that's also a skill, is to be able to do all that and still service your core audience and do what you want to do. Because I also like respect, we're going to talk about later on AFI, like there's the members of that band are in other bands that they have formed together, because it's so far different than what the original base is. So I find that sometimes to be a hollow criticism, again, unless it's really obvious that the band is phoning it in. I just think those are two different things. And I'm with you. Like it doesn't necessarily mean it's good just because it goes a bunch of of different directions.
Dude, for sure.
That's not a value in and of itself. I've always, and it's funny because I read a lot of contemporary reviews and they all say that about pretty much every album that I like. And I'm like, no, I think I like that album because it sounds like them. Like that's a lot of why I like a lot of the albums that get criticized for that exact reason.
Exactly where I fall on this argument is that I don't understand why that's a bad thing. Like, tell me why me listening to an album of, let's just keep using Pennywise because they're the one that always gets brought up. When I want to hear Pennywise, I don't want to hear NoFX. I don't want to hear NoFX, man. I want to hear Pennywise. Or I don't want to hear Lagwagon or the Agrolites or Mustard Plug. No, I want to hear Pennywise. I like their vocal style. I like the way they play guitar. I think it's probably a little harder even to have a 10 or 12 album career and have most of those albums be really, really good throughout the entirety of the album with only one kind of sound that you're really doing and have to rely on being tight, your like technique of your instrument, your lyrical ability, like the longevity in that is not easy. Like, how do I say this? Like, yeah, you know what I mean? Though, like doing that for 2 decades, I think it deserves a little more
sustaining
credit.
A fan base because you've sustained a fan. It's not like you're just doing it to no one. You know,
correct.
People are going to. There's a reason why you have to service that audience because it exists.
Right, dude. Like, thank you.
Yeah, it's a conversation that I think is bigger than Teen Idols, but they're a good example of this. Now they can release a lot of songs, like a lot of output within a pretty short time. So again, I can kind of see how people would have got burned out by them. And like for me,
yes,
I always put them as like not a second tier band, like as far as quality, but they just kind of. Oh yeah, Teen Idol. They would be on tour with these people, or they would be doing that. People. They never really got that sort of prime slot. But this stuff, it's they're just like any other band though. Like, had the right people have been paying attention, they could have been big. Like all those bands were pretty damn good. You know what I mean? So with the right machine behind it, there's no reason why this couldn't have blown up into something that was huge. Because it sounds like a lot of that other stuff that did blow up.
It's got equal parts Ramones, Beach Boys. Like, you can't have those sounds and not be popular if the right people hear you. So you're absolutely correct with that. I think that a band like Teenage Bottle Rocket is like probably like the peak of where this kind of band would end up, where they're still touring. They're legendary. They have 250 to 500 person shows all the time, no matter where they're at. They're making decent money, not amazing money, but they have to tour to do it. But you know, I think that's the kind of band we're talking about here. And Teenage Bottle Rocket also falls into this kind of has a sound type of band. I don't know, man. I love every band I rock, dude. Has their sound, and that's what I like.
Yeah, and Teenage Bottle Rocket is the like analogy to this sound. Like that's the like we've talked about them being like Elvis and the Beach Boys, but with punk rock, and that's kind of
right.
You could see the roots of that with this, like very very directly.
I think this band. The only reason that they didn't have quite as much what's the word I'm looking for here, like potential, is because they were even more niche because they had like the greaser look and they had very specific topics that they were talking about, whereas a band like Teenage Bottle Rocket are there's like regular ass dudes, and then they also talk about everything from Kiss to skateboarding. So there is that. But yeah, this band is great. This album is fantastic. So we go to the next song called Her Only One. It has a very familiar melody. I'm not sure where I've heard it, but it's really good. But it absolutely is familiar to me, and it's I put that this is a top tier Ramones-core band for sure. Then we go into Test Tube Teens. That is a wild song, dude. But like, listen to the words, man. It's kind of crazy, man. Some of the stuff that they talk about in this album makes more sense now, and it makes you go, ooh. Now, when it came out, I was probably like, oh, that's funny. But and I put this band's a lot faster tempoed than a lot of the Ramones worship acts out there. But they're just really fast and tight musically, and I love the vocals on this band. There's a great solo in that song.
They're faster than those bands, but they're also poppier than those bands.
It's weird,
in a lot of ways too. Yeah, because they are extremely. They have a ton of pop sensibility. Like
yes, a lot.
That's what's like. This stuff is really cool. Like I hear a lot of like you can see a similarity more to like Green Day than you can a lot of these underground bands in this band. You see a lot of that same sort of styling that they have. That rock and roll styling is kind of on display here.
Definitely agree. And they were on Honest Dons, which isn't a very big label. I'd love to talk to one of these guys one day and just
is that the Fat Records off label?
I think it is, dude. I know that
the Fat Records bands that are like equipped for fat, like
yeah, because I think the Real McKenzies were on Honest Don's as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Yeah.
But whatever though. It's a great. I thought it was a cool label. And then we go to the next song, Insanity Plea. Clever lyrics, more great vocal melodies. They weren't reinventing the wheel here, but super high quality music, like we've been talking about. Social distortion and screeching weasels, love child. The female vocal really adds a lot of flavor to this, in my opinion. Really good quality recording and production as well. Yeah, dude, this is social distortion and screeching weasel. Just blah, 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 blah. Here you go. And then we got sorry. After that, we got Skinflint, which is a very strange title. I think the real score here with this album is the lyrical content. On the surface, it's like goofy greaser types with let's see, what did I write? I mistyped something. Well, it is what it is. This one showcases the fact that you come here for the rhythm and melody, but you stay for the substance. This song was oddly mature for this band. It was very, very good. I think that's something that needs to be talked about a little bit, is that this band, when you go below the surface of the lyrical content, you scratch a little bit below that, you start to see a lot of maturity, a lot of like intelligence, I'll say. Maybe not maturity, but like knowledge and smarts.
It's just packaged in like a silly way.
Yeah, they're bright people, man. Because then we get songs like "She's a Poser."
So the whole album, I got to interject real quick. The whole album goes from like a pretty good to like, I love this little stretch we get on starting with "She's a Poser," because the next 4 songs all go in completely different. To that point of the diversity, they actually all go in completely different directions. The next 4 songs are the perfect example of that.
It's funny because I actually notated that too. So we got "She's a Poser," and then I put, with all the scene drama going on right now, this is a pretty funny song to me. I put, it's great though, and I imagine a little tongue in cheek. I think so. I can't tell. I'm not really sure. I couldn't get a grip on it with just a couple listens. What do you think? Do you think they're being like really blunt and straightforward, or is it a little like?
I don't know, because I don't know much about them.
Right.
But they have such a silly vibe to them. I don't think they took themselves that seriously. So I kind of it's very Bouncing Souls-ish in the way they kind of present a lot of the stuff. So
then the next song's called 20 Below, and that one sounds like a darker version of like MXPX, dude.
Yeah, that's like not a ballad, but I put on here like a minor chord, like sad boy song.
Well, it is like a ballad kind of, but it's sped up. It's like a doo-woppy, like singing to your girl outside in the rain, but like 4x the speed.
Yeah.
But it's really good. The female vocals actually the female vocals actually being a chorus. This one's more dynamic than the rest of the record. It really makes this one stand out. These songs are short and to the point, and I absolutely love it.
If they would have ever had like a hit from this album, like that one could have been it. I think that's like song that could have been that really would have fit into a lot of like that Warped Tour stuff.
100%, dude. 100%. Then we have Cynical Fool, and I just put, oh man, this one has Pennywise feels.
Yeah, I have written down here, cool skate vibe is exactly what I have. And it had that guitar, had that just shredding sort of, just that kind of chainsaw of that style. And with that specifically Pennywise, like with that sort of urgent kind of, like it feels like that foreboding kind of tone that they would do. It sounds
the only other band that does that sometimes that's even remotely as good at it as Pennywise is NoFX. Like sometimes have stuff where I go, oh, that sounds like Pennywise. But they've both been around for so long.
Yeah, and I feel like the NoFX, it almost goes back to our other conversation. They do a lot more stuff though to get to that point where I think Pennywise is a little more like this, where it's really just a couple of guitar chords that are creating, which is probably like my favorite old time sound in music, is whatever that is. Like I just love that.
Right?
That's like,
dude,
I could die just listening to that old, like that could just be like the background music of my life. It's just that type of guitar just going as I'm just walking places.
Dude, 100%, man. We have Historian. I actually kind of want to hear your thoughts on this song. I put any song with a solo in it from this band stands out, and that's a good thing. This album is so dang good.
Yeah, so I talked about this run on the record. This is the one I think sounds a little out of place. I don't like it as much as the other ones, and I just think it's what it's surrounded by for me more so than.
Don't you hate that?
Yeah, because
you get like a B+ song surrounded by a bunch of A+ songs, and you're like, well, now the B+ sounds like a C.
Yeah,
but whatever though. I said a virtual loser. I said this one smells like AOL.
and I have written down like a poppy Bad Religion song from like like Bad Religion on like
yeah,
Atlantic.
yeah.
Like I feel like they would have had a song like that. Like Bad Religion was never quite this outwardly poppy, but this song has a very Bad Religion kind of vibe to it.
I didn't think about that until you mentioned it, but you're right, man, for sure. I put great song and great lyrics. While dated, this is simultaneously very relevant, and I just think that's so hilarious.
There's a lot of references on this album that feel very like dated or like not date like naive. Like it's like, oh, this music was recorded in a different world than what we live in now. That's a trip
For
to
sure.
think about.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And then we only got a few left. We got Been So Far. Not a lot to say about this one. I like it, but it's kind of a filler song in my opinion. Not a skip, but it doesn't stand out to me really, but it's a decent enough song.
Yeah.
Big Girl Now, honestly, a little strange lyrically, otherwise pretty solid. I don't understand that song at all. That's the one song on the record that I was like, I guess.
kind of another one that had a bit of that Bouncing Souls vibe to it.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. I just thought like a bunch of dudes talking about stuff from a girl's perspective when they have a girl in the band doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's a little odd.
It's very strange. Now and Then is the second to last song. Really good vocal performance on this one. A little solo in the song. Great layered vocal melody. I like the lyrics too. Very relatable. I think that song should have been the last song of the album, personally. But the album's really short anyways. My lesson, I just wrote, yep, wrapped up a great album. Like, so.
It's just like, again, I think it's hard to like in the modern context appreciate albums like this that just existed that you would kind of have and drive around with and you would get kind of into, because that's just, like I feel bad like Teen Idols would never get to shot like in the streaming era because like
you
just
1
listen
million
to the other stuff that you're a little more attached to. But this just sounds like stuff that was just in your CD changer that you threw on because you were in the mood for some punk, and there was so much stuff that sounded again just like this. Really feels like 1999 when you just think of like. I think people have a hard time conceptualizing what like the idea of underground pop punk. Like people don't realize that was like
because they think of it as having to be popular, and I'm like, no. Pop is the sound.
Like there was a lot of what people considered underground music or pop or underground music or punk that was not that dissimilar than the stuff you heard on the radio. It's just the stuff you heard on the radio happened to have major label support, but it didn't musically sound drastically different. And those scenes were cool. Like there was a lot of different like scenes that were around, and they would intersect sometimes with these other ones. And I don't know, man. It's just yeah, I don't even know if there's. I'm trying to go on like an old man rant here about how good it used to be or something, but I do feel something of.
I definitely. I definitely have fond memories of the good old days. I think that this band is one that will get lost in the shuffle, especially now. I think that especially with us talking about AFI here in a few minutes, that album still sounds fresh, like it could come out right now almost, honestly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this one, not so much, and if it does, it's just not to the degree of success that it had. It would be like lost in the shuffle for sure if it came out now. It
would be looked at as exactly a generic album, and like those criticisms might actually be somewhat relevant that you would hear, and this sounds like 1999. Black Sails,
I like that though.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Black Sails, as you said, came out in 1999. Could have come out in 2004. Could have come out today. That's man. Like a little bit. That's both the type of band and I think there's a certain depth of quality and recording quality and there's a lot of factors that go into stuff being like absolutely timeless, and that's
it's very multidimensional. It's not something you could just be like, oh, this is why. There's a lot of reasons why. It's a very layered. It's an onion, man. You start peeling back the layers, talking about it, you figure out a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and it's always hard with punk rock because so much of having to remember is you have to dig out these gems, and it's
100%.
Like, it's hard to keep that history because like it's just not as convenient as keeping the stuff that's top of mind. It's right there on the algorithm that YouTube is just kind of feeding to you, and just keep listening to the same 5 bands over and over again.
I really love that you pointed that out because that's exactly why I do what I do, man. So my Sunday night stream has changed a little bit, right? I used to just like whatever I wanted to listen to, I listened to it on there. And I just got tired of looking for new music. And I started thinking like, you know what? What I want to do is I want to showcase something that isn't getting attention anymore for whatever reason. Maybe it's old. Maybe it's just there's too much new crap out. So this Sunday I went and listened to Pistol Grip with the whole album.
Oh, wow.
And so now we're going to showcase an album on every Sunday night stream. Well, that's going to keep this stuff alive, man. If I don't do it like that, this stuff just falls by the wayside. It just goes away. And I don't want that, man. There's too much great music that's already out there. I don't need new music necessarily. I'll take it, but I want to remember the stuff that was great when we were kids, man, because it was great. It wasn't just good back then. It was good. And, if we don't keep talking about this stuff, it does get lost. At least I think so.
Yeah, and I think because it had value, and it still has value, and
1,000,000% have value.
There's a lot of learning about how other bands got to where they are. So I just think there's, and look, culturally, it was important. Like that, like pop punk and punk rock has mattered to
so much,
to a lot of stuff, to a lot of other pieces of culture. Even if punk rock itself has never been the thing that you're going to say is the dominant part, but a lot of stuff you see borrows heavily from it.
Look at we even have somebody like Pink, who is a worldwide super megastar, getting songs written for her by one of the most punk rock dudes that ever live. Mm-hmm. And Blink-182, Green Day, all these bands, people can say whatever they want about them. I don't care. I don't necessarily think that they're punk rock either, but they definitely draw from it. Don't tell me they don't. That's stupid. And so, yeah, man, this stuff is very important to popular culture. It's very important to, especially folks like us.
Yeah, and to indie culture generally. Like, I think in today's day and age, indie culture has a sort of like gentrified kind of thing to it, where it's like it's like rich people who go to like record shops and buy this thing and
look at the fests. $500 for a ticket.
That's exactly what it is. But punk rock created its own kind of fan culture and DIY culture that a lot of these other things that went going on DIY didn't used to get applied to things other than punk rock. I feel like DIY was a punk rock term, maybe not necessarily, but that's the only time you ever heard
I still feel like it is.
And but now it's come out to the world. And I love how much of the world sometimes has caught up to punk rock. Like the way everyone does podcasts themselves. Everyone does their independent media themselves. Like the thing that survived was kind of the punk rock model. Yeah, that's kind of wild. That there's all these manifestations of punk rock and so much parts of our society apart just from the influence of the music itself, which
I love it, man,
has tons of influence too. There's not a lot of rock music that comes after 1974 that doesn't owe something to the Ramones or something to. If you look at all the major trends in rock, they're all just how they interpreted punk and added other stuff to it. That is every evolution of rock. Like rock itself kind of got as far as it could throughout the 70s, and then you bring in punk, and it is punk that deals with the techno stuff. And it is, when you look at 80s hair metal was a form of punk mixed with other forms of metal. Thrash metal is punk and metal. Grunge
thrash metal specifically, dude. Look at Kerry King and Slayer.
Yeah. That was. They loved the UK stuff. They loved the Motorhead. They wanted the speed of punk with the sort of vibe of the metal bands. Like punk is so influential, really. And you look at indie music and all that stuff. The core of all of that is punk, and it's bands like Teen Idols and stuff. You see part of that foundation is built off of. I don't know why we're doing this punk rock podcast. We're just talking about how much we love punk and the idea of it, but it really. It's because we got to hammer it home, because that's why, again, stuff like Teen Idols is worth talking about and its place in history sort of being put out there.
I mean, why would we put so much time and energy into collecting the stuff, going to these shows, going to these festivals, whatever, man, going to Vegas to go visit a museum, if it wasn't important, right? And there is no other scene like punk. We've established that. There's no genre like this. Nothing exists where I could talk to somebody like Aaron Micolo. In the metal world, that wouldn't happen. I couldn't talk to somebody like David Tejas in another genre. That guy's too famous for another genre. There's no pop star of his level that would talk to me. It's wild, dude.
Yeah, and that's the appeal of it, though, too. Is that
100%.
sort of excess?
Absolutely.
You kind of always thought you could be that guy that you're seeing right there, because he's not that much different from you. Whereas these other genres of music, the the performers are almost treated in this like deified fashion, where they're like this godlike figure that you're going there to worship.
Yep.
With the
It's
exception
weird, man.
of the band we're going to talk about now, because they did sort of take on that sort of larger than life feeling, but also regular cool down to earth guys that'll hang out with you if you see them. I said the band we're going to talk about is kind of the one exception to a lot of what we are saying.
It's weird because we are going to talk about AFI here in a second, and I'll say it like this: AFI got there based on their talent. They didn't like aim to get there. I don't think. I think they just did what they did, and then that's where they got. So before we wrap up and go to AFI, how do you feel about Pucker Up as a record? What kind of grade would you give it?
Probably about the 7 range.
Okay.
Again, not a ton that like really grabs me, but like there's no point where you're listening to that record where you're thinking it's a slog or it's difficult to get through.
Right. I think it's pretty great. I give it a 9, but I agree with your like description of it and opinion of it, because I give it a 9 subjectively almost completely, because this is the exact kind of music I like.
Yeah.
This is more my style than yours, I would think. Not by a lot, but by a little bit. And yeah. Like I think a straight 9 is good, because there's only one song I don't really care for, and it's just so fast and short. It doesn't give you a lot of time to hate on anything, really. But yeah, man, it's not perfect, but it's great. I love it a lot.
Yeah, and it's really high quality, I would say. Just generally, like that's why like I like that sort of you can put the really quality stamp on it. Like you're not going to be mad because you decided to take that CD out and put that on.
Honestly, it's got kind of a shockingly high quality to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
because it's not thought of as this. It's not like the 5 best punk albums, and it doesn't come up every time. So that's, but again, to our other point, a lot of these punk albums, you had to sell the whole album because you weren't selling the radio hit. So every song on these albums are good generally.
That's something that we should bring up more often, I think, is that these songs aren't like top heavy.
Mm-hmm.
There's not, albums. There's not a lot of filler on these records because, like you said, they couldn't afford to put out 10 tracks and have 3 of them be outstanding, 2 be okay, and then 5 or 6, 7 tracks be just straight up garbage or filler like that. People wouldn't put up with that crap.
Yeah, and they're also often recorded within the same session too, so there's not really time to tease out one from the other. That's why a lot of times when a band goes on a major and their sound gets a little softer, it's not so much that they're changing their sound to fit what the pressures are. It's just that they have time and comfort to start crafting these songs in certain ways, and I think that's why the stuff tends to slow down a little bit. Whereas a lot of these albums that we listen to are written on the back of buses with basic melodies and acoustic guitars, and then figuring it out, and there's a lot of great music that came from that. But I do think that's why it's a little bit of difference with the bands get a little more comfortable.
I think that back in the 90s, we didn't have MP3s yet, so we could only carry, let's say an average backpack would either have like a 16 disc little binder thing, like a small one, or maybe like 3 or 4 CDs, or maybe even a couple of tapes and a Walkman, dude. So you had to be like, okay, I'm going to put an album out. We got to make sure every song is good because this person is going to buy this from us. And if it's not a solid record all the way through, A, they'll never listen to it. B, when we go to shows, it'll be crickets, dude. People will not show up. And so nowadays, people can just drop a single, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just different. And so now it's much easier to be like, hey, here's 2 songs. In 3 months, I'll give you 2 more, or whatever, a month, whatever. And then over the course of a year, you drop enough music to do a compilation of a record or something.
Or you call it an album, yeah. And release day has like 2 songs that you haven't heard.
Yeah. So it's interesting, man. I think that the building a record now is way different, but I think it's equally as important. I just like this kind of stuff because I grew up with it. I think I'm okay with my biases.
It feels a little more succinct because of the production process. Like these records feel more like records, I think, now because of what you're saying with the abundance of singles. Like this single feels like this, but the single feels like that.
Dude, that actually needs to be brought up more often, is because you get a lot of albums that there's no cohesive sound to it. It's just a bunch of different sounds. It's a bunch of this this session here, and we were in New York and did one. We were in Austin, did one. We went to Nashville, did 3 songs. We went out to LA, did 4. We went to China for some reason to celebrate something, and ended up doing a song, and it made it on the record. And a lot of that doesn't make, and the mixing and mastering of that has got to be so difficult
to make it sound very similar and different.
Weird, huh?
Sound environments, yeah.
All right, let's move on, dude. Let's talk about Fire Inside. Isn't that what that stands for?
Yep.
All right. So, I don't remember what date it was that it came out, but in 1999,
I think it was this month. Yeah, I think it was.
I think so too. Sometime in May 1999, AFI dropped Black Sails in the Sunset. This is the one. It's 12 songs in 46 minutes, so it's kind of long. At least to me, I like shorter albums, obviously, right? But this is the one. This is the record where you listen to it and you're like, oh, I see what's happening here. Some people like it, some people don't. But this is the one where you see like they've reached this peak and they're going to start heading this way now. And I'm a giant fan of their first 3 records. So this album is a weird one for me. I'm gonna let you talk about it first, and then I'll do my read through of my track by track. It shouldn't take very long. And then I have a comment that I'll say at the end, and I would like to have your rebuttal to my thoughts. But AFI Black Sails and Sunset is a fantastic record. Let me get that off my chest real quick before anybody thinks I'm saying something crazy.
Yeah, because if you didn't, I was gonna like storm off the set and do one of those bits and be like, I can't believe you said that. But
no, it's a great album.
It really is, and as you mentioned, it is, and the band has acknowledged this. So whatever their identity is now and forever will be, all got started and all really the birth of that is this album. Now, it's not like they feel a little bit mixed about it because they were kind of like, they didn't really like think they were going to make a completely different record with a completely different vibe. They just said it kind of came out that way. And if you listen to like, was it Open Up, the one right before this?
Open your mouth, close your mouth. Nope. Wait, shut your mouth and open your eyes. Whatever that is.
Yeah. So people were, sometimes people would be like, no, their new direction was hinted to on there. And it kind of was. So there was a lot of like darker references. There's sort of like the cover art is a little bit different than what you had initially, but it's still not like an epic. It's still a hardcore skate punk album. Like it's not an epic album the way
for the most part
this thing is. And what this album is the result of is, so again, I talk about what their identity is. Their lineup has not changed since this album. So this was the final formation. They brought in Jade, the guitarist, who was like Davey Havok's best friend, like for most of his life.
Oh, really?
They had just never been in the same band together. Like,
interesting.
Like he was, Jade was in a band that had taken AFI out on tour and all this.
Band?
And I have to look it up. I'd have to look at the name of it, but they were like the very, very close together. And in fact, like around this time, I think Jade and Davey shared a bed where they would alternate, where one would be on tour and the other one wouldn't, in like a punk squat in San Francisco. And so one of the times,
of course,
when AFI got off tour and they needed a new guitarist, it was kind of awkward because like one, he had to kick him out because there wasn't enough space for him there. But then instead of kicking him out, he just kind of asked him to join the band.
Hey, like,
okay, yeah, that'll kind of work. And then so he could kind of like stay because like, it was one of those places like they were staying there. The Nerve Agents were staying there. It was like, it was a squad that was there for punk bands specifically. I don't think it was just exclusively, but like basically, a punk house.
Dude.
So they formed there and then they lived together. So they started really working on this stuff. And Jade, so Davey always had a like of music, obviously other than punk. He didn't really view AFI as was going to really be that, you know what I mean? That wasn't his vision for AFI. I think he had the vision of what AFI started out to be. But then he would add stuff to like his own personal appearance and stuff. And so that would kind of grow. Jade himself, it was a guy, he was kind of similar to the Jawbreaker guys we talked about last week, gone to college, come back. So he was a real creative kind of artistic guy. So that stuff is amazing. Davey loves that stuff. So him and Davey were friends. Him and Davey connected like that. There's a song on this album. The first day they connected, they started writing, and they just had instant chemistry. So the band really became those two guys writing the songs, and the other guys contributing. I know the bass player said going into this album, he was happy they were bringing in Jade, because while Jade, played in punk bands and knew all the punk guitar stuff, he was a little more of a musical guy, and the bassist didn't quite like how hardcore they were getting on the recent albums. Like, he wanted them to be a little more melodic, and Davey has said, like, you wouldn't say Black Cells is a melodic record, but compared to what they had done before.
Wait, what? Who wouldn't say it's not a melodic record?
Davey Havoc said that. I'm saying he said he wouldn't consider it the super melodic record, but in comparison to the skate punk and the hardcore punk stuff that they were just doing, he said, yeah, absolutely. And that was, it was a little bit of a conscious effort. And he said, like, Dexter didn't get it. Dexter, like, why are you guys changing your sound? This isn't going to work. Like, Dexter didn't get it. And again, they didn't really think of it as changing. And it became this thing with AFI. So AFI hated being called goth punk for a couple of reasons. Davey liked some actual goth music and just didn't feel like that's what AFI was doing. But also he felt like that was just like, calling someone goth was kind of like derogatory towards the band. It was. At the same time, Davey was dressing like this Glenn Danzig thing that he was doing. And like, so people like me, I didn't take it as an insult. I was like, oh, that makes sense, because they're like the goth kids who are touring with Rancid. You know what I mean? So,
you dress like that and then you get called that and you get mad. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. But I think their issue was like their music was not this like club dance, what you would associate with like goth, like European.
No,
goth.
It wasn't like they were the Cure or Depeche Mode, but
yeah.
They turned into it.
Yeah, and they did. Yeah, they definitely liked that stuff and leaned really heavily into that stuff. And Davey always said he felt out of place, though, even in like the Gilman scene, because they were more of like a hardcore style band with a lot of these sort of Ramones-core bands and those kind of bands. So they always felt that they were like a little bit different. But they going into this album, it was really just the addition of Jade. So they slowed down the songs a little bit. They made the songs bigger, but even like the artwork, like I remember at the time having all the albums on CD, and it's like, it was so weird to me. It was so jarring, the change of like what the band was on those first three albums, and just the insides of those albums. And you open up the booklet to Black Cells, and it's this big painting that's very elaborate and it's very thematic. And the album's not as slowed down as like some people kind of remember it and think of it as. There's a lot of like jumpy AFI style songs, but there's like long songs and it's bigger and it's drawn out.
You're talking about Black Cells, right? Like people said it slowed down. That's weird. Okay, let me get some thoughts out of my head real quick. I don't want to interrupt you. First and foremost, this is a very melodic record, like incredibly melodic. At least in my definition of melodic, there's a lot of that in this album, and that's not a bad thing. It's just an observation, right? Man, I'm surprised that Davey said that. That kind of blows my mind. Oh man, I lost some of the stuff I wanted to say. Whatever, man. This record's really good. I want to hear more about what you're saying. I have a couple things when they come up. I want to raise my hand like this. That just means I got something on my mind, so I don't have to like interrupt you. I'd rather not do that. You're speaking some nice knowledge here, and I'm learning quite a bit. AFI is a band that I've always loved, but I like their first three records, and then, let's say, how do I say it? I'm a monumental fan of their first three albums. I really, really like this album. And that's it. I don't like nothing else they've ever done. I know that's sacrilegious to some people. December Underground and Sing the Sorrow.
I think you're really forgetting popular, Art of Drowning, because Art of Drowning is still in this.
Yes, Art of Drowning. That's
Art of Drowning and the All Hallows EP are still like this era. Like
the EP is like all right, I guess, but the Art of Drowning is a good record. I forgot about that one. Yeah. But see, like, how can you say like we don't want to be called like goth punk when they do stuff like that album and this one? I don't understand that. It's very strange, but like, yeah, dude had a devil lock and wore fishnets and like it's such a strange.
I think it was semantic, and I think it got thrown at them like initially kind of derogatory, and they got like defensive about it. But they
then they went that way, and they're like,
they kept kind of leaning into it. Like, I don't think they realized, like, again, so like, they were such an access point for a kid like me, because like my initial like alternative look was just like, that's the stuff you kind of saw on TV, was like that kind of vampire-y Halloween look. And so to me, it was like, oh, cool. Those guys kind of dress like me, but they do this funner music. They do this cooler music than bands like that. I guess the ones like he's referring to, actually do, because like in this era, that's the thing. They kind of become like these kind of cartoon characters. The way Davey Havoc becomes like this vampire guy that he turns into, because
turned into a Karen.
Yeah, they were.
But he had like long hair. It was like sharp, and like he wore like blue eyeliner or blue eyeshadow. And I was like, I mean, whatever, do you, bro? I don't care. But like,
and it's funny because he looks like a pirate now,
bro. But I remember Davey Havoc walking out on top of the crowd as they were holding him up, and he was singing like this, and he was wearing a black pants. His hair was kind of long, but he had a white shirt on. It was a white long sleeve T-shirt, and he had one arm behind his back, and he was going. And I don't remember what song it was, but I remember seeing that and being like, "Wow, that's bananas."
Davey's a hell of a performer. Just
he is
in person and on record. Like he is. That man was born to be just a front man. Like man, he has that.
I know I don't care for those later records, but I am perfectly okay with going. But objectively, they're incredibly well-made pieces of art. And if I liked that kind of music, they would probably be some of my favorites. I just don't like it because it's not the sound that I like.
That's exactly my take on them. Like I think everything they've pretty much ever done is of quality.
Yes.
So I've never been offended by their style changes for that exact reason, because I've always been like, okay, they are doing something different. It's clearly authentic by them too. Like they were not about, like they went into these different directions. They have these side projects together that have these elements in there. So they just kind of kept pushing, I think, where they wanted to go. So they were one of the first bands that I ever like mutually parted ways with whenever.
Right. No, that's a great,
like, I was like,
great way to
I don't like this, but I still like them. They're still cool. You're not going to take away that. We don't know them to be jerks or anything like that. So
right.
Whatever. I don't like. It was the first time I was ever mature about the whole situation. Like, I don't like what they're doing now, but I still have my other, 6 AFI records that I'm going to play forever. So cool. And actually, I've come around a little bit on that stuff. I did kind of actively dislike it, but I never disliked them. I don't know why they got spared my dumb teenage wrath.
It's like unreconcilable differences with parents that split up. Like you're like, all right, I know I don't hate you, but I don't like what you're doing anymore. I'm going to go this way. Like, here's the thing. This is a very like emotional topic for me, because it's a two-sided coin for me. Like usually I'm on one side of the coin. Mm-hmm. There's two sides of this coin. One side, I totally understand that they have given me, I'm going to say 4 albums that I really like that I'll always have in rotation, right? So they deserve to be able to go do whatever they want. And I'm okay with that. And like you said, I was like, all right, well, I'm done here. And I left. On the flip side, bro, if you're going to change your sound from black to white, would you just start a new band, please, and call it something different? Like, it just try. And I understand why you wouldn't do that, like financially speaking. But as a fan of the art and as a consumer, it makes me so angry. Whatever, though. I mean, it makes me angry, and then like 2 seconds later, I don't care. So I don't stay angry. But it does irritate the fire out of me. And I've owned, what's the first one that they did with the black, with the red?
Sing the Sorrow.
Sing the Sorrow. I owned Sing the Sorrow, and I put work in on trying to like that album. I was a manager of a Hot Topic, and I put it on all the time. I just couldn't get into it, man. Like, I just couldn't. And everybody was like, you're tripping. This is perfection. And I was like, well, man, like this also would be a time where I would say something that would piss a lot of people off. I think that the Teen Idols record is better than Black Sails, because that's just my opinion. Objectively, are they even comparable? Not really. Black Sails is objectively a far superior record, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Well, not all the time anyways. We're here to put opinions in this conversation. So, I'm also okay with saying it's objectively a better record, but I like this one better. I think it's better. And people just can't, they're like, their wires cross and they go, and they spaz out. They call me a loser online. Don't bully me, guys. But, whatever.
I find it weird with AFI too, because I can connect with a lot of people at AFI, but we come from completely different perspectives of being a fan of that, because like AFI went on to be like this, known as this like great emo band, this pioneer of emo, which by the way, a lot of that emo like mythology totally got built in this record. Like a lot of that stuff totally comes out of like lyrics
for sure
from this record, which was not happening as much at the time. But a lot of people who were into like we were talking about like that My Chemical Romance, the ones that would have came like right after my era.
Well, it was
and
more
they
like
came in.
screamo than emo. It was like a
Yeah,
louder, more up tempo, maybe a little more like noisy. Because emo was predominantly like kind of quiet, softer. It would have these like bursts of like emotional tangent, but it was overall a much more calm, subdued sound. And this stuff was screamo because like Hawthorne Heights, great
yeah.
band, but they're more of like a upbeat, and they would sing, and then they would have these yelling choruses and things.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and I think
you do
AFI
play this one?
really, as time went on, they were really responsible for bringing like a version or stylings of like hardcore and that kind of stuff into like mainstream music. Like they were one of the bands that has that sort of roots and would incorporate that into their songs that really ever like got to that level. Like I always I forget about them often when we think about like the most successful bands that ever came out of our stuff.
Oh, they're way up there.
AFI comes out of Gilman. Like I don't know if you would say they were. I didn't live in the 1995 world of Out Come the Wolves. I would like to know like 2003 AFI versus 1995 Rancid. Who was bigger?
Wait, what was the okay?
So like 1995 Out Come the Wolves era. Think of Rancid in that era, or like 2003 AFI. Like who was bigger?
2003 AFI.
Yeah, I feel like that too. But
For sure. No. Like there's no doubt in my
weird.
mind. Because I went through both of those, and I can tell you that AFI drew crowds that Rancid can't draw. I'm okay with that. I still think Rancid's the superior band. But if I had to speak with like just honesty,
yeah,
I don't think Rancid was pulling the crowds that AFI was at their peaks.
Yeah, probably not. And again, like, and there's a little bit of power that AFI had being on the major label that they were able to, even though Epitaph did really good for Rancid, they were got to be everywhere.
Davey did vocals with them on stage. They were buddies. We're not talking trash.
No, and they're specific friends. Like they were like like Tim, they say Tim didn't actually produce the first record. He just kind of gave his name to the record as like a license to say I produced it. Like Davey said, he kind of just hung out at the studio for 2 days because they were all like buds, and then
maybe threw a couple of words out there like, "Hey, you should try this," and then that's producing it.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like one of my favorite performances of the song "Radio" is when Davey sings it all.
I don't like it.
No,
but no,
I like that as a moment. But so thinking of it, I would say then after Green Day, they're probably the second most successful band, at least out of San Francisco, at least out of the Gilman scene.
AFI?
Yeah.
Wait. Yeah. No, one of the ones that. Sorry, hold on.
Other one.
Sorry about that, Rob. Yeah, I don't know. I don't.
Like who else would we really put there?
Yeah, I guess because my only other thought would be Rancid, but I still think AFI would be technically more successful. But I don't think they have. But I don't think that they have the more impactful records, though.
No,
is that isn't that weird?
I would agree with that. Yeah. And it's not like AFI is not impactful, but in terms of that, like in terms of the hierarchy of like all time punk, those other two bands are far that way. And AFI missed the. Like they were like Davey was a kid in the I think he's like the age of like the Green Day guys. Like they were a little bit younger watching like Op Ivy and really were into that stuff. So we don't think of AFI as much as a Gilman band again because it might.
I never think of them as a Gilman band, even though I know they are.
Yeah, and it might. And part of it's just their sound too. Is they sound different than a lot of those Gilman
bands. Very much.
But again, so they start in the mid '90s, so they're a little bit past the glory era of like Gilman, and we like to more romanticize as like the Operation Ivy to Green Day era. But like Gilman still exists after that, and like AFI is one of their big house bands in that era. It's just weird, like bands that come from San Francisco versus bands that come from LA, and I think like you and I definitely sort of gravitate a little more towards these Bay Area bands, even if they don't always all sound alike, but we do like a lot of that San Francisco stuff.
No, I love a lot of that music. I like a lot of LA street punk too, though. Like, I mean, some of my favorite bands right now even are from Los Angeles. But let's talk a little bit about specific songs real quick. Let me go through my track by track, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And then I want to toss the ball back over to you. So the album starts off with an intro. I don't like intros. This one's no different. I just don't like it. I skip it. But we go into the first song. It's a 2-minute blazing fast powerhouse of a song. It goes with the intro a little bit. So if you're one of those guys, if you're listening to it on like a cassette, it would probably be good to have them together, honestly. I personally just like to go straight into was it Porphyria?
Yeah, you know what? For like 20 years, I've been trying to pronounce these AFI songs correctly, and I've never been able to. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I wrote down amazing vocals, the lyrics that you need to read along with to appreciate. This is the kind of song most people only dream of accomplishing, to be honest. That first like song on that record that's how you start a record, because after you hear that, you don't have any choice but to stick around, because what are you going to do? Hear that and then be like, nah, I'm good. Like, who does that? I want to know anybody that's into punk, hardcore, screamo that can hear that song and then just be like, yeah, I don't like it. I mean, they got to exist, right? But like, I want to know why. That's crazy to me. Then we go into one that's called, I think, Exsanguination.
I think so.
Slower tempo, a little heavier at the beginning. Then it just goes. This chorus is so epic and big. This album is ridiculous. I love me a simple 3-chord punk song, even prefer them, to be honest. But dang, this is something to marvel at and appreciate. Is some of this about vampires?
These first two songs are.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And like, if there is a theme, it's like most of the songs are outwardly about vampire or witches. Most of the songs are but I think like it's a metaphor through like of like social isolation and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But they're not a goth band at all. That's for sure. Right.
Yeah. And so I literally have, so for Porphyria, like it's a song about that term is a skin defect. And so that's the concept of you can't go out into the sun.
I've heard that term before. I should know what it was.
Yeah. And then like in this one, Exoneration, you hold me down, you brought my rebirth. Like it's all that vampire thing. It was before. It's funny because like had this have come out like in whenever like the Twilight movies were coming out, this could just be the soundtrack.
Oh my goodness!
You wouldn't even need one. You just put this thing on there, put Davey on the cover, tell him he's like the third sexy vampire or something, make $1 million.
Facts, bro. 100%. On that same song, Exsanguination, I'm not a big fan of the bridge, but it's all right. I love the big sounds of this album and the speed. I'm not a fan of this pace personally. I don't know what that means. I might have typed something wrong. But that's what it was, because it does slow down and get kind of stuff I don't like about songs. You know, I'm very primal and I'm very simple.
Well, this is what they were referring to as like the slower down parts that they did, and that's kind of what you're talking about there is what they were referring to in how this album.
100%. Yeah, I did make a point to put, dude, this chorus is amazing. And that it's a shame, but I've only lost my mind to these songs live one single time, and that really does bum me out.
I've never seen them, and I had that revelation on the way to work today as I was listening to this record. I was like, how have I just never?
Yeah, I only got the once.
I just don't know. And I would say, though, if you're watching this and you want to get a little flavor of AFI, there's plenty of really good AFI on YouTube. Like, for whatever reason, there's just a lot of that stuff on YouTube. But there is a show. It's in the O2 Warped Tour. So when they were recording Sing the Sorrow, they only played one day on the O2 Warped Tour. Like, it was just Warped Tour was close to wherever they were recording. And someone has a really good side camera shot. And it's exactly how you're describing it. It's Davey in the jeans and the white T-shirt with the
That's on YouTube?
And he's just going.
I have to watch that.
It's about... half of them are these songs, half are Art of Drowning, and about a third from the first couple albums. It is amazing, and the sound quality is pretty good, and it's from that side, so you could see like the side of the semi trailer from the Warped Tour. Like it has a very Warped Tour feel.
That would check me back in time.
Check that out whenever you're feeling lonely.
Oh man, I'm always feeling lonely, bro. Okay, next track is called Malleus Maleficarum. Yeah, whatever, man. I'm just gonna call it Eminem. I put, oh man, the way the vocals start in this song, my goodness. Then the chorus, while a little slower, is super big and powerful. This album is absolutely epic. There's some anger in this one. Davey is amazing. There's an amount of art to these songs, a certain amount of intelligence. They can be intimidating, but they're absolutely amazing songs, and I love this version of the band to a certain degree. Hard stop to a certain degree.
So this is the song that they wrote together that first night. So the first night
really
that Jade and Davey started writing, this was what they kind of came up with.
Dang, bro,
So
what?
Jade like brought a piece of it. Like Jade was kind of because Davey has written most of their music or was starting it, but Jade brought a big piece of this, and they put this together. And I love there's like kind of an Old West vibe to different parts of it, and there's a lot of that on this album.
Okay, I can see that.
I guess like almost the way like Tiger Army and those kind of bands do it, of this sort of
oh, dude, we're
like
about
not
to
really
talk about Tiger Army.
Western. Yeah, it's got kind of that sort of DNA in it, and I think I like the rhythms, like that sort of punk rock drum thing that they do on a lot of these songs, where all of a sudden they hit like the gallop moment where they're going through like the singy chorus, and then what if I could, and it just starts doing that on so many of these songs. Then like the gallop moment hits, and these songs are, because they're a little lengthier, like this song is 4 minutes long. There's a lot of parts.
That stuff's hard for me to deal with.
There's a lot of parts to them, but I think it doesn't drag to me the way a lot of other music that's this length does.
Okay, no, it doesn't drag, but there's parts of it that I'm like, like I said, I'm archaic and simple, man. I can do without some of that.
And it's funny because like, okay, the second song is 207, 248, but then all of a sudden there's a 5-minute song just right in the middle of the album, so it does tonally shift a little bit. Yeah.
Man, one of these days I want to figure out a way for us to get on here together and listen to an album together, so we can like dissect songs together. I really believe that would be incredible content for the viewers and listeners of this show, because we have such different opinions on like specifics, but we overall agree on most things. Man, I think we could do like an EP, even just like a 6-song something, and I think we could. Fun. It would probably spend 2-3 hours doing that, I would think.
Oh yeah.
We go to narrative of Soul Against Soul. These song titles, bro, whatever, man. A more straightforward punk song, but it reminds me of Tiger Army quite a bit, especially the chorus.
Yeah, and the chorus is you have.
I think Nick 13's in a lot of the background vocals.
Yeah, I think he might. He worked with them at one point. I don't know if it was on this album, but you have Jade actually doing the vocal where it contrasts. And this was a kind of like a cool like anti-suicide song, because a lot of these songs are very, very dark, and this was one with a little bit more of an upbeat thing, even though like it sounds dark, but that's why searching for that thing you can't find. It has the a permanent solution to a temporary problem. What you need to do is live and stuff like that. It's funny because everyone thinks of this emo music as this dark, like cut yourself music, and there's you'll find
it is, but it's still got other messages.
Stuff, embedded in it. I also just love, and shout out to the bass on this record. It just does its own thing, and it's amazing. And like this one really starts out with just that grindy bass. I love the way the bass is mixed. This album, from a production perspective, is just great. The way everything is.
I second that
so perfectly.
Yes, I second that, dude. The bass on this record was really good. I liked the bass on the Teen Knowledge record. It had like this like rolly bouncy sound, but this bass has a lot of, it's thicker. It's got like a it plays a more predominant role in the overall sound of the album to me. Like it's more important. If it was missing, you would notice it immediately.
And it has its own it has its own tone, so to speak. Like it doesn't just sound like the E string with a deeper, like it's got its own unique sound.
Correct. So it's like
you can hear it throughout the songs, because that's what I guess that's what I mean about it cutting through the mix the way it does.
Well, it's like when they set up their instruments, it's very clear that they didn't want the guitar and the bass to match. Like a lot of bands will be like, hey, we only got one guitar player, so we have the bass. They hit the gain about the same as the guitar, so that way when we play, it's a thicker sound. Yeah. No, they got plenty of stuff going on. They can, this band's very, very good at what they do. Next song, Clove Smoke, Catharsis, slower prodding intro. Then it really slows down to an almost ballad type song. It's the first song I really don't like. Sounds like the version of this band that I really dislike. The first official skip is Clove Smoke, Catharsis for me. How do you feel about that song? You like it?
Yeah, 15-year-old me's pissed at you right now for not liking it. I still love that song. I still love the Dexter part. I like when Dexter comes in and contrast. I think Offspring's a lot more influential on AFI than anyone will ever really give them credit for. Not just for the Nitro thing, but a lot of their sound, a lot of Dexter's like singing little nuances. When you actually listen to those albums, there's a lot of what Davey does. And I think that they go together really well in this song, because like it feels like Dexter could have sang this song.
Anybody that says that Offspring didn't influence AFI heavily is, well, they probably just don't know.
Yeah, they would just be uninformed.
Because, dude, even the that is a lot of early Offspring.
Mm-hmm,
like, But yeah, man, whatever, dude. I don't like the song much, but I was very much expecting you to like it, so I'm not surprised. Uh, then we go into the prayer position. Sounds a little like there are some Linkin Park influences in this one. The chorus is huge. I want to fight against this song, but it's really catchy. Like I wanted to not like it.
Yeah, like that's just one. That's when David can take his break and just put the mic out to the crowd and have him do that.
I wrote down the chorus just pulls me right into this song, even though I didn't want to like it. The breakdown, clean guitar, super slow hi-hat. This part I don't really care for, but when it comes back in, it makes me want to punch myself in the face, man. Open hi-hat and gang vocals is hard as, bro.
See,
you know about that? With just the open hi-hat.
Yeah.
He's just smacking that thing. Dude, bro, are you kidding me?
See,
I wish I knew the technical terms of this stuff, because I don't, but like I know what I'm trying to say here. That stuff drives me nuts in a good way.
I love the beginning of this though, the way it comes out with that like it feels like guns that are shooting in different directions. It's because it feels like it's kind of like a nu metal vibe. That's exactly what
it does.
But like again, that bass is kind of going one way, and then that's exactly when you think of like what the nu metal sound is. It's like all those guitars, those rhythm instruments. That's exactly
nu metal.
That is.
This album had it drew a lot of inspiration from some early, like I would say, lighter side nu metal, specifically Linkin Park.
Yeah, it really did. It's funny because like one of the funny things when you go to the Wikipedia page of this album is Guitar World named it as the 9th best metal album of 1999.
That is so weird. That is so strange.
Which also means that those writers really hated nu metal, because there would have been like 15 nu metal records. Probably you would think that would go ahead of it. So shout out to those guys for keeping the punk rock alive. But again, from a guitar, if you're looking at it from a guitar perspective, though, nu metal is not necessarily a guitar genre in that way, and this has tons of great guitars, so I can kind of get that if that's the case. But it was just,
I mean, this is definitely a heavier record than most like early nu metal stuff that has like that leans more into the hip hop, you know.
Yeah. And again, this borrows from it's hardcore. You could see, as we've talked about before, how like emo is more it's very in tune with punk, but also has the ties to obviously to hardcore and metal is more
absolutely
how, like, what produces emo. And this AFI is a perfect like version of that with heavy punk roots as well.
Yes. I mean, I don't know what else to say about to that. No Poetic Device. This one is an amalgamation of Offspring and Tiger Army 100%. It's a great fast driving song. The dark lyrics on this one, on this record, are really pretty poetic. They're very pretty. His like lyrical content is very pretty. Not a style I usually gravitate towards, but I'll take it here with this one, dude.
And I don't think it's meant to be necessarily always understood. I think some of it's just meant to be like weird sounding, but like I think Davey knows what he's talking about. But like good luck getting him to explain to you what a song means, because he just
1,000,000%. Yeah, for real.
He sounds like go ahead, make your point.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that they have these weird harmonics in this song that make it a little more interesting. That like without those harmonics of bing, 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 you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Without that, I do think that the song would lack something. They made really smart, like really weird, intelligent, little bitty decisions,
musical choices. Yeah,
correct. In this record, that really just make it go from like a square to a 3-dimensional cube.
And it's just so well done. I have written down here is like, to me, this is one of those songs where Davey like almost assumes the role of like the Joker or this like carnival barker, where he just sounds like he's like riding a surfboard of the music and leave it, because Davey's voice, like there's some bands where you can say like, I like this band, but I don't like so-and-so's voice. Like, I don't think you can like AFI and not like Davey Havok's contribution to the band. Like, I think he's such an important part of their sound.
I'm like that almost exclusively. If I hear a vocalist that I don't like the band.
Right.
Like Davey Havok's voice is beautiful, man. I love that guy's voice.
It's such an instrument, I think, in this band.
We go to The Last Kiss. I really like the vocal harmonies in the pre-chorus of this song. When the chorus kicks in with the gang vocals and a more tempered pace, chef's kiss, man. This is ridiculous. Such a wonderful album for the most part. The lyrics in the chorus are amazing. The weird electro guitar thing they did at the beginning of the bridge was pretty rad. I forgot that was even there.
That's the start of them incorporating that kind of stuff into their music. There's the proto bit of it.
Yeah. It's weird too, because I genuinely like that in this song, and I genuinely dislike their later work. It's weird, man. I don't understand it, so don't ask me to
It shows a good
explain it.
connection though too of like how that stuff though is sort of connected to their older stuff. I think that song's a good way.
Right.
This song was another one of my driving to high school just chant along. Oh, what's up today? Like I have such fond memories of anything AFI related. Like AFI just brings up warm feelings in me.
When I was in high school, I wasn't listening to AFI yet. I discovered them later. So like I discovered them in probably like around the time that this album came out. Maybe a little later than that even. No. Yeah. Yeah. But when did All Hallows Eve EP come out?
That was like the next year. That was 2000 because it's like this came out in 99, that came out in 2000, I think.
Oh no, the EP came out in 99 and then the album came out in 2000. So I discovered them with The Art of Drowning. And then I went so I had to go backwards. So this album was like probably the last one that I even listened to from that era. I went from Art of Drowning all the way back to their first record and then worked my way forward. Yeah. So but whatever, man. This band is so freaking good. Their first few records are so good that I don't even care about their later material. Like it just didn't bother me at all. Next song is called Weathered Tome. And I put, man, that bass intro. This is a straight hardcore song. The melody and the chorus is so catchy and infectious. Man, I love this band so damn much. I mean, for as much as I've talked crap, I love this record, dude. Yeah, it's so good.
To me, it's like it's the weakest song on the album, and it's still like really good.
Like, man, it is so far from the weakest song to me.
Like I'm not eliminating it. It's the one of like if I had to order them all, I would probably put that one last.
Man, there's a couple that like the last part of the album I don't really care for, to be honest.
Oh, we got to fight on that one.
Well, let me see. I don't know, man. I think there's just a couple of things about the record I don't like. Otherwise, the album is pretty awesome. I don't want to be like too negative, but I also don't want to sit here and say I like something I don't like. You know what I'm saying? It's a weird thing I'm trying to like balance here. Next song is called At a Glance. I can't imagine trying to perform these songs vocally live. This is some real haunting vocals. I hear more Tiger Army, maybe some Misfits, a little new metal breakdown. It's kind of interesting, not really for me, but it keeps the album from getting monotonous and boring. This one is a little long too. First half is awesome. Second half loses me a bit. Speaking about the song. So like the first chunk of it, I really like it. After that, I don't. I think At a Glance is where I don't really care for this song. The last part of the record just really doesn't. Yeah.
I would contrast. I think At a Glance might be my number one from this album.
Really?
It's right there with the closer. It's those two songs are the two that I.
Oh, the closer. Oh crap.
Yeah. I think At a Glance is like the song that sounds most like a song that's gonna be on Art of Drowning too. So and I love Art of Drowning. I think this song could have been like some of the sound they reached on Art of Drowning. I think really fits in what At a Glance.
Yeah, was. I mean. One thing I'll say is that we disagree on certain things. I think mainly because I like a more straightforward punk sound. More like the degree of how much of that I want in my music is more than what you would normally care about. Like, how am I saying this? Like, it's not like you don't like it. You just don't care to like. I insist on having a more straightforward punk rock sound in most of my music. But whatever, man. I'm not trying to like dog the record. This record is phenomenal. God Called In Sick Today, a clean guitar and vocals intro. It's a ballad. Slowly picks up to a big chorus. This is a ballad. Not really for me personally. Officially, my second, maybe third skip of the record. So there's like 3 or 4 songs on here I don't really care for, but
that was the first like official ballad type of song that they ever did. And then from here on out, they closed nearly every record with a song like this. So like,
okay.
The other AFI song that I'm secretly obsessed with is Morning Star off of Art of Drowning, which is the last song on Art of Drowning. And then so every AFI song, it makes sense the way the AFI, the way their albums go in the tone. The last song tends to be a slower sort of just fade into the background. Kind of like I need to go credits kind of song.
Listen to Art of Drowning again. It's been a very long time since I've heard that. Their first 3 records are perfection to me, so I don't really listen to this album, and I don't listen to Art of Drowning hardly at all. Like I don't even know if I own them. But I also put Midnight Sun as a hidden track. I hate those, especially on streaming services. This song is I hate, but I'll just skip it with the song it's attached to. So like there's like 3 songs that I just don't care about in this record. But the other songs that I like so we have like the opposite opinion on this record. The first like 3 songs are so good to me that it eclipses any kind of negativity I could have about the record. And it keeps me interested so much so that I'll listen to the whole album based solely on the strength of the first couple of songs, which honestly, that's rare, man. You don't find bands that can do that a lot. You hear like one song's really good, two are kind of bad, then one or two are really great, and then one's pretty bad. Then you got an okay song, and you got a pretty bad one. It's really annoying. Like,
yeah, this is pretty high quality, I think, throughout. And you and I have our preferences of where we kind of land on it, but I think
right.
we're pretty much in it, that it's pretty high quality. Like it's one that, like every now and then, just if I'm in the mood for it, I like to listen to it as an album because I think the AFI albums really do work well.
I agree with that.
But I can also just pick it up wherever, and I pretty much can get into any song on this album at any time. Like it does have that Teflon feeling for me.
Let's see. Okay, so I don't really care about the intro thing. Let's see here. Where is Clove Smoke Catharsis? I don't like. Let's see. Yeah, I think that one and then the last two songs I don't care for. Everything else, so okay, the intro, Clove Smoke, and then the last two tracks include, I guess, three if you include the hidden song.
Yeah, which are kind of, and those are kind of the slower tracks on the album.
Yeah, like I prefer their fast stuff because I think they do it so well. So okay, I wrote down something. All I wrote down was I just wanted to get your rebuttal on this. I put this album is not my favorite AFI album, which I think is an unpopular opinion. I think this is routinely called their best by a lot of people that I talk to, but it's where they start to turn into the band that I don't feel is even AFI. Sing the Sorrow and December Underground are not albums that I enjoy even a little. I was super bummed when they changed, but I get it. You grow and you change as an artist most of the time. I would have just preferred a new band completely. So just to end this talk about this album, how do you feel about that? Do you think if a band changes enough that maybe they should try to call themselves something different? Because a lot of bands do it, and a lot of bands
I think
don't.
a lot of
I guess
bands
it's kind of a
traditionally would have had more success with like when they made a lot of bands have like that album that's their like just whoa, where the hell did that come from? And then we go back and we listen to it and like, hey, that was actually pretty good. We just didn't accept it because they made it.
That's a good point.
Like again, let's think about like like if Rancid came out with a hip hop record or Blink-182 came out with a hip hop record, we might think that's a little weird, right? We might not.
Well, that's kind of my point. That's exactly. That's a great example.
I don't think though, but to your point, I don't think I think when AFI became 2 or 3 records later is so far away that maybe you can make that argument. But I think AFI's evolution every time was close enough to what they were before that they didn't really need to do that.
Okay. So no, I can't say you're wrong.
AFI specifically, I would say no. But like generally, I wish bands would do that, even if they are the same personnel. I think the brand loyalty just gets, you forget it. Like there's an expectation, and like Bad Religion, like some people say Into the Unknown's not terrible. If they would have just gone on tour as a prog band and people weren't mad that the punk band had a keyboard, it might have just been a good album that they did, and maybe they can tour on every 5 years or so. And I can't think of the name. Davey and Jade have a couple of bands.
It's like Black Audio or something like that.
Yes, yeah, and those are exclusively like electronic post-punk style bands.
Well,
so like that stuff is far enough away that I think they did create a little bit of a space for that.
With our mutual hatred, or I won't say hatred, our mutual dislike of Rancid 2000, we've discussed that should have probably been a Lars and the Bastards record. Like, it doesn't sound like Rancid. I'm gonna stand on that till the day I die, dude. People get, I get so much crap for that.
That is like your thing. That will be like, it'll be in the obituary. Like such and such did not like Rancid 2000. That's
Facts, bro.
Headstone did not like Rancid 2000.
Great cover art, terrible album. But like, I want to talk to Lars about that so bad. I'm gonna reach out to Matt Freeman and see if he'll talk to me. He might. He seems like a pretty reasonable guy, and I would like to hear about like the process of making that album, just so I can understand it more. I would like to learn more about the AFI stuff. Shoot, why not? I don't care.
Yeah, shoot. It's like we were talking about earlier. I want all these guys to do all the podcasts, write all the books, do all that stuff while they can.
Yep. Right.
And I'm sure someone does, and someone will make it, but I don't care about like the next generation necessarily. And that stuff documented. Like the internet exists to document like everything that, like the Interrupters, everything they've ever done will live on the internet forever. So
For real.
we can always go back and do that. But this stuff we have to, pick some of the stuff out of zines and out of all this stuff and put it together. So I want the people that were there that had their, that were feet on the ground. I want them to keep telling these stories, build these legends. It's just, I mean, I was like,
it's exactly
I was
why
reading
these
the Bad
shows are
Religion
important.
book the other day, just for like the third time, just because I just wanted to immerse myself in the story a little bit, just for the fun of it.
I mean, there's a reason why these shows are so important to us and the people that watch them. It's because of that right there. It's because this stuff can't fall to the wayside or fall by the wayside, whatever the saying is. But like, it can't go away, man. It's our life. I think this album for me was an 8 out of 10. Where do you fall in that? Probably like way higher than that, huh?
Eight, probably 9. I mean,
9.
I could even call it a 10. I'd have to see what my whole scale is to see if like there's albums I couldn't call a 10. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's a protected class. It's right under there. But I would say like there's nothing I object to on it though either.
I give it a very strong 8, and I wouldn't usually give an album with 3 skips an 8, but the rest of the record is so good that it's kind of like I kind of want to give it even higher than that, but I just can't.
And it's one of those two. Like again, I do prefer Art of Drowning. That is my favorite album by them. But like,
okay,
if I was put like in a debate scenario and I had to defend this, like I'm cool with doing that too. Like I do like that other album better on a personal taste, but this is. I would have no difficulty defending this as their best album.
Man,
I could do that
I think
very easy.
Mine is probably Close Your Mouth and Open Your Eyes. Let me look real fast. Let me look at the song titles. I get confused with their first couple records occasionally.
Yeah, I put some of the songs on different albums in my head too on those first couple.
Definitely do that a little bit. Let's see. Answer That and Stay Fashionable is probably my favorite. Oh man, it's a good record. Very proud of. Man, these records are good. I'm gonna say their first record is my favorite. That's a perfect album. It's freaking perfect, dude. And next year it hits 30 years. Next year's gonna be crazy, dude. We got Out Come the Wolves. Ooh. Yeah. Oh my goodness, bro. Yeah, AFI is a wonderful band. I'm very glad that they exist. I'm very happy to listen to them. I'm gonna give this a very, very strong 8 out of 10. I'm gonna put some of the songs in the playlist. Dude, the playlist is at like 1,300 songs almost. It's ridiculous.
As it should be.
Yeah, right. Dude, you could throw it on random and just while out for hours and hours and hours.
Like quit your job and go away and just like live in that playlist.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Dude, next week is going to be crazy. We're doing, isn't next week Pennywise and it's, where did my notes go?
I remember it's Pennywise.
Pennywise and freaking Pinhead Gunpowder, dude.
Okay.
Yeah, Shoot the Moon, man. Do some Billy Joe.
It's my, again, my favorite Pennywise album we'll be breaking down, so I'm really excited for that.
And then the following week is Blink-182, Enema of the State. We can never talk about that album enough because it's phenomenal.
And I don't need to do any research for that one. That's so nice. Man. I can just roll out of bed.
There's this guy on YouTube. What is his name? He's got gray hair, got kind of sideburns, and he breaks down music. And he's
Rick
done.
Beato. Yeah,
that Rick guy. Beato. Yeah. His breakdowns of Blink-182 songs are magic.
That's how I found that guy's channel. Yeah, I was actually watching. So I was showing someone that, and I was like, hey, he can really like intellectualize like pop punk, and I learned a lot from those videos of like the chord progressions and all that stuff. And I like what he'll do. He's done like Metallica, he'll do Nirvana, like songs, you know what I mean, and breaking it down in like that real artsy kind of way. But I had forgotten his stuff got back in my algorithm, and that's how I used to follow like modern music for a few months. Is I would just watch his reaction to like the Spotify top 10. And I like, it's funny. Even though like I'm not like a producer, and this guy's still like 25 years older than me, but I feel
wild.
He speaks a language, and that's why he's big on YouTube. Is he speaks a language I can kind of understand, like the limited stuff I know about music. He teaches well, and he's the one that made the point one time. He's like, it's funny that every big producer that produces all these pop hits look like me. He said it's funny because like it's very uncool people, but you listen to music for so many years, and like everything he's done, you have such an ear for it. You know what works where. And it's funny that the ears of these guys are just insane.
He's able to really take the song and put it like break it out into layers and let you hear it layer by layer and then hear it completely built. And that is something that I'm not good at even deciphering. I can't take a song and hear those parts. but when he shows them to me, then things will stand out, and I appreciate that. I really like that a lot.
Yeah, it's just a great resource. I cannot recommend that stuff. That even like sometimes I'll disagree with his music commentary on things, but
Oh,
it's
I
also
disagree with quite a bit of stuff he said,
it's
but
also
he's
like
so brilliant.
It's a guy who literally produced all these hit records. That's worked with all these. So you may disagree with him, but he absolutely.
Oh, he's a producer.
Yeah, that's.
I didn't know that's where he got his background.
This is basically his second career, as like he kind of retired from full time producing, and then his YouTube channel just happened to take off. So he produced, like he said, actually he produced mostly new metal, but there's a lot of albums that we all know of, and then he knows all the producers, and so that's why he has so many big guests on his channel, and that's why he has such an ear, because he just produced music for so long. And he can again decipher and really just his rants sometimes on modern music too, and some of the limitations of like the way they do the stuff in the computers and stuff like that. Like that's a guy that has a foot in that old analog world and remembers how that goes. I assume like in our world, guys like Brett would be resources like that would just kind of like just know everything,
Man, I love doing this, man. Doing the deep dives, digging into people's brains. Did you see that I did a Clash live stream recently?
Yeah. How did that go?
I listened to their self-titled album is pretty good, man. I never heard it before. It doesn't sound like what I think the Clash sounds like. Now, am I going to go back and suddenly become a fan of the band? Almost certainly not. But I could appreciate that record for what it is. It had like mostly pretty great songs on it. And I think I'm going to buy a copy to have because it was good. It was really good. But people are telling me that if I like that one, I'll probably like their second album as well, and then that's likely it. I'll probably won't like the other. And I think that's pretty true. I'm learning a lot about them. I was sent a book by one of my label signees that they sent me a book about the Clash so I can read up on it a little bit. Whether I like a band or not is almost irrelevant on these topics because I want to learn as much as I can about the history of this music, how it was written, who the people were, where they came from. I want to be a guy where you can ask me questions about it and I just know. Whether I like it or not doesn't matter. I want to know the answers because I want this channel to be quality. And that's important to me. Talking to you, I want to know what I'm talking about. I don't want to be able like, I guess. No, dude, I want to be able to hold my own in a conversation. I take this seriously. I think that you're really good at that. I think you have a lot of knowledge. And my memory is really bad from head injuries and such. So like, that stuff is really hard for me to do. So if I'm putting that kind of time into it, people need to understand that. Take it seriously, man. I'm for real. So I like the fact that I'm digging into something I'm not necessarily super interested in.
Yeah,
it cool. Shows you some dedication, and we'll see where it goes. But I am glad I listened to it. I did not expect to like it at all, and I was very surprised. So and then we did a live stream celebration for the Gary Floyd from the Dicks that passed away, Austin punk legends. I did a stream for them today. The channel's kind of taking this weird turn into doing a lot of streaming because I have time during the early part of my day that I don't do a lot. So I'm like, I'll just stream a little while. So, but that second street punk video is almost done, bro. I'm a little nervous, man. I'm a little nervous. On the third one, I'm going to try some new editing ideas. I've like written some things down that I want to try. I'm like real nervous, man. I want to do like some stuff where like the background has like some moving images and then like over that comes something and then kind of fades into the front. Like, yeah, I'm gonna try some stuff, bro.
Motion graphics.
We'll see, man. We'll see. I'm nervous, dude, but I'm excited. So last thing that I just want to talk about for a second has nothing to do with any of the stuff we talked about previously. So today, okay, right now I'm at home during the day with the little guy, and I'm on dad duty like until mom gets home, and it's like 3 days a week. It's just me here with him, or 2 days for sure, sometimes 3. And so the last few days that I've been here with him, he's like insisted on being in here while I'm doing my live streams. So I got a chair for him, and I got him some over-the-ear headphones on the way, and so he's gonna be my little during the week co-host.
I like how like it's like a Stern Show kind of thing. You're gonna go to like the whole room. Like that's cool.
Yeah, dude. We're gonna just have some little man hangouts.
Yeah, he's gonna have some hot takes on some of this stuff for sure.
Oh, bro, he speaks so like he's a 3-year-old. He's like, that's stupid. Yeah, fart. I'm like, bro, what? He's like, fart. I'm like, that's hilarious.
Smarter than his dad. Yeah, look at that.
Hey, dude. Yeah, you're for real, dude. All right, man. Anything you want to touch on before we go?
No, man. This was a
That was an
great
awesome
conversation.
episode.
I love talking about it. I could talk about AFI all day long. And Teen Idols too. That was fun too.
Dude, I mean, look, I'm gonna be honest. I prefer the Teen Idols record out of the two, but that's because that's the kind of music I prefer. But by how much? We're talking minuscule numbers here, dude. Like on any given day, I can wake up and be like, no, I prefer the AFI album. So it's very much a coin flip. Give me one of them. I don't care which one. I want to listen to it. They're both great. The Teen Idols one has one skip. The AFI has a couple. So I guess you could go that direction in terms of like my personal tastes. But yeah, man, AFI album is fantastic. I need to go back and listen to some of their older stuff just to go back and listen to it. Yeah, just to
punk rock is good. How about that?
Yes, I think I'm gonna do a tier list on ramones-core bands pretty soon.
Oh, yeah. You'd be a good authority on that.
I just like that music a lot, so I feel like I could talk about it a little bit. And then there's tons of bands I don't know though. There's so much of that stuff. I didn't realize how much of that stuff exists until like a year ago. I was like listening to something. And then I got like into this rabbit hole of ramones-core bands, and I found a video on it, and I was like, "What?" And there was like 10 bands I'd never even heard of that were supposed to be like these great bands, and I was like, "What is going on?" So I might do some like, "Hey guys, help me out here," and do some posts and see what I can get some information. Cool. So, all right, man. Well, next week it is Pennywise and Pinhead Gunpowder, dude. What a great episode that's going to be. If you're a fan of Green Day or you're a fan of skateboarding or punk rock, beer, Fletcher, violence, farts, belching. Dude, it's gonna be a great time, man.
Saturday night, like we like to call it.
Is it facts, bro? Straight Ahead's the album, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a good record, man. That is a top 3 Pennywise record, maybe top 2, maybe maybe best. I think I prefer one other one, but yeah, dude, that is a fantastic record. Ooh, what a good time.
Yeah, it's gonna be
fun. Sir. Yes, sir. S tier. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, man. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're still with us. Please go check out my Bandcamp. There's a link in the bio. I put out good music, man. The Havoc. Our Rebellion Continues drops on cassette in like 4 weeks, I think. It's going to have only 100 copies. So, yeah, man, we're working on some good stuff here with the label. Thank you for your time. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Hope you have a great day. We'll see you next time. Peace.